Welcome to the Customer Wins podcast, where business leaders discuss their secrets and techniques for helping their customers succeed and in turn grow their business.
Hi, I'm Rich Walker, the host of The Customer Wins, where I talk to business leaders about how they help their customers win and how their focus on customer experience leads to growth. Some of my past guests have included Arnulf Shu of G Reminders, Marla Sofer of KnowMe, and Joshua D. Rogers of Arate Wealth. Today, I'm speaking with Vickie Lewin, Chief Growth Officer of Amplify. And today's episode is brought to you by Quick, the leader in enterprise forms processing. When your business relies upon processing forms, don't waste your team's valuable time manually reviewing the forms. Instead, get Quick. Using our Form Extract API, simply submit your completed forms and get back clean, context-rich data that reduces manual reviews to only 1 out of 1,000 submissions. Visit quickforms.com to get started. All right, let me tell you more about today's guest. As the Chief Growth Officer, Vickie leads Amplify's sales and marketing team, driving strategic direction, business development, and market positioning. Prior to joining Amplify, Vickie was Senior VP and Chief Success Officer at AssetMark and served in various roles at FundQuest, Investment Advisory Network, and Nuveen. Vickie, welcome to the Customer Wins.
Hi, Rich. Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Oh, I'm excited to talk to you. So for those who haven't heard my podcast before, I love to talk to business leaders about what they're doing to help their customers win, how they built and deliver a great customer experience, and the challenges to growing their own companies. So Vickie, I want to understand your business a little bit better. How does your company help people?
So Amplify is an all-in-one Wealthtech platform serving RIAs and the companies that they work for. And we help people by making it easier to run all aspects of their business so that they can free up time to spend more client-facing time with clients, prospects, and centers of influence. So it's about productivity and alignment and time savings and growth.
All right, that's awesome. I love hearing about the kind of, I'm going to use the phrase business in a box concepts, but I often see that they fit within certain areas and not in others. I mean, there's so many facets to running an RIA. What are the core strengths of your product? Where does it really fit?
Yeah, so sometimes our technology is referred to as a TAMP because it has all of the elements that a classic turnkey asset management provider has, like a proposal tool and portfolio construction and third-party managers, performance reporting and billing. But there's also a CRM and research tools. And then as with any technology, we're constantly listening to our clients to see what else they want us to add, what else they want us to build. And in the modern era of technology, the integrations out to other tools are easier as well. So all in one, really, Rich, all the way from the client relationship management, client lifecycle management tools, all the way to performance reporting and billing. And what we want to do, and I'll go back to your first question, what we really want to do is we want to make it easier for financial advisors to get clients, keep clients, and grow their clients.
Nice. I think that's a great ambition because that's the core of their business. Okay, so you're in sales, business development, et cetera. How hard is it for somebody to say, I want this all in one system? Because I'm already on Redtail or Wealthbox. I already have XYZ portfolio management, et cetera. How do people make this decision to move onto your platform?
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard. Change is hard, as you know from being a business leader and business owner for a long time. So, the change tends to come in at two moments. We're finding one of the changes happens when an advisor who perhaps is part of a big broker dealer or part of a regional broker dealer. It comes when they say, "I want to go build my own business," and when they say, "I want to go build my own business," they're leaving behind whatever technology that prior company provided. And an all-in-one can be a really easy first step instead of trying to piece it all together because the variety of choices today is just massive and it can be paralyzing. So that's probably the easier one. And then the second one that comes to us typically comes when an RIA owner is frustrated with whatever tool they're using now. And it tends to be the portfolio operating system, the build the portfolio, trade the portfolio, report on the portfolio part of the application. It tends to be that they're getting frustrated with. There are some really terrific systems out there, but some of them are getting a little dated. Some of our prospects are telling me that those systems are getting a little tired and they're not keeping up. And so we're finding that people are interested in, a piece of our offering, and that's fine. Somebody can start with a piece of our offering and then decide whether they want to use the other features over time. But it tends to be firms who are breaking away and they need to start from the very beginning, and all-in-one can be an easy choice. Or firms, when the pain is great enough where you are, or you get frustrated enough, the pain of not changing becomes bigger than the pain of change. So those are the two we tend to talk the most to.
So you revealed something that is very near and dear to me, and that is, how do software companies survive the long run? And that is to reinvent themselves and keep innovating, because so many companies don't. And oftentimes your competitive advantage is simply being modern, right?
For sure.
So how do you guys keep innovating? How do you keep pushing the envelope forward? Because it's a huge investment. It's a major resource draw when you still have customers to serve, et cetera. How do you guys approach that?
Yeah, it is. Well, maybe one of the advantages that we have actually, Rich, is not only that our first line of code was written in 2018, but also that we are not currently serving thousands and thousands of clients. We have 20 billion in AUM. We have about 650 financial advisors on the system right now. So for us, the keep the lights on investment is not as great as some of the older, more mature platforms that have trillions of dollars in assets under management and thousands of clients. So our, the size of us being a little smaller does give us an opportunity to invest more in innovation and less in keeping the lights on. Yes, we have to invest in keeping the lights on because we have clients we want to keep happy. The thing about software sales, wealth, technology, and I guess I'd say this was true across my tenure in financial services, is you're never finished. There's always something else to do. There's always something else to build. There's always something else to create, something else to consider. And you can let that be frustrating, or you can let it be exciting. That the roadmap of building Amplify, and this is true for any technology firm, the roadmap's never finished.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. There's so much truth to that. So I want to share with you our philosophy. Really, it's my philosophy since before I started my company. And that is, I'm trying to always put myself out of business. I'm looking at innovation in terms of, there's somebody who could come in and disrupt everything we do and change it so dramatically, I get put out of business. So why don't I do that instead? And being a 23-year-old company, maybe it's inspiring. I don't know. Maybe it's a clue. Maybe we've done it wrong, but we keep pushing ahead. And I'm watching my main competitor not innovate for 8 years. And it's just making it easier and easier for clients to realize there's better value out there. So I want to come back to something else, because you offer so many variables in your product set. How do you compete against the best in class for any given part of your product when, I don't know if you're trying to be the best CRM and the best portfolio management system and the best, et cetera. How do you kind of compete with that?
Yeah, we are trying to provide in our platform the best of some of those best in class features. As it relates to CRM, I'll use that one. As it relates to CRM, it's one of the areas of the platform that when somebody loves their CRM, they love their CRM. If they've invested time and effort and resources into building out or building something on top of Salesforce, as an example, right? They're not going to be eager to replace there. So there are certain components of our platform where we know that we need to provide integration options and choices, in addition to having it live internally if they don't need the power of all of that. So there's some flexibility there. And then there's other areas of our platform, like our risk scoring methodology, and Riskalyze and Nitrogen. Now they've done some really great work, but we're willing to go head to head with them on the risk scoring capabilities that we have. We think our methodology is a little bit better than theirs. So there are areas where we go head to head, and our risk scoring is an example of that. And there's areas where we provide integrations, and our CRM is that. Our trading, we would go head to head with any of the more of the older, more tenured trading systems. We think ours is a little more intuitive. You can get to where you want to go with fewer clicks. There's a little more guardrails on risk. So there are certain areas of the platform, and I guess I highlighted too, where we would go head to head with the others, but others where we know we need to provide the integrations. And the other example, Rich, of the integrations would be the financial planning software, the estate planning software, the tax planning software. We have no plans to build those in-house. Those really require a lot of dedication and focus, and that'd be another area where we would integrate.
Yeah. Okay, so I want to ask a question, but I'm going to preface this. As a tech vendor myself, I always think my product's the most valuable. I'm going to save you the most time and give you the most value for what you're going to pay us, that kind of thing. But I know that's not exactly true. So I'm curious from your perspective, as you talk to RIA firms, where do you think they place the most value in their tech stack? What is the hardest problem to solve that's the most valuable, or the easiest lift and therefore the most valuable? Just what's your perspective?
Oh, it's such a good question. So I was reading through the Cerulli study this morning, and Cerulli talks about financial planning software being the most important for a financial advisor. And I don't disagree with that as it relates to the great work that financial advisors do with their investors. And that's an area where we integrate. But as it relates to an RIA, the enterprise that really is our client, it's the trading functionality, and I think the ability to give every advisor what each advisor wants. Right, when you're in an RIA enterprise, some advisors may want to build portfolios one way, some may want to build them another. An RIA may want to provide models to the firm. They may want access to a model marketplace. They want all that to be easy to build inside of a UMA construct. They want it to be easy to trade. I don't think they want advisors spending all kinds of time on portfolio construction and trading. And that's where, a tool like ours is really valuable to the RIA enterprise. Flexibility and choice for the advisors in terms of what they want to build and how they want to serve their investors, but the ability to build and trade and analyze across multiple custodians in an easy way is where we really come in to serve the RIA enterprises.
So you know what? With RIAs, it's similar with Quick. They want us to help them when they're multi-custodial. The paperwork related to going to multiple platforms is too much. So they want it in a centralized way that's integrated and fast, et cetera. So that's fascinating. I'm sure you're familiar with the Kitsy's tech map.
Oh, wow. Yes.
My question is, how do you break through the noise? There's so many solutions out there now.
Yeah.
It's hard to read the map even. I mean, you have to have a magnifying glass to even see it. So how do you break through the noise? And I'll share my secret in a second.
Yeah, I think I need your secret because I haven't figured it out. So I looked at Kitsy. What a great concept! Kudos to him for thinking of that. And I've seen lots of other folks do, in other industries do something similar. But I looked at his map from 2018, and you could see the logos and you could see the categories, and there weren't that many. And you could imagine how, if you were an RIA and you were wanting to piece together a tech stack, that you could make sense of it. You could even probably survey all of them in 2018. But fast forward to now, Rich, I don't know how anybody makes sense of it. I can't, even with my reading glasses on, I can't read all the logos. It's hard to discern the categories. Some of the logos are in multiple categories, but the map has a hard time showing that. And I don't know. I always believe that choice is a great thing because you can get what you want. But man, I think we've gotten to a place in the technology offerings for registered advisors that there's so many choices. I don't know how people make sense of it. Maybe that's why the consultants have all popped up like crazy to come in and help you choose. They've come in to help, navigate across. I kind of think, and I hope I'm, around long enough to see if what I think is true, but I kind of think that we've exploded in terms of choices. And I think the next stage of what happens with RIA technology is there starts to be some consolidation Because if I'm a business owner managing, 5 different vendors is hard enough versus managing 10. And so I think I have to believe firms will start to consolidate and package together to just make that a little bit easier for people to just manage all the stuff that they have.
I agree. I think there's going to be consolidation. There's also, I just forgot the word. People are going to fall off. Companies are going to fail. I don't know how they manage who gets on the map, but I would think you have to be at least like a 2-year-old company, proven success record, something, so you don't go out of business the next year. But regardless, it is a challenge to kind of organize and capture all that to help the industry make good quality choices. And I talk to people and they're like, well, I'm looking at this and this and this and this. And that's a lot of phone calls. That's a lot of demos. That's a lot of analysis. How do you make sense of it all? So I'm going to share 2 secrets, actually. One, I have absolutely nothing to do with, but somehow Quick is the only one in its category on the map. So we have a category to ourselves.
That's perfect.
No, but honestly, I think the secret is kill them with kindness. Your service, your customer success and service has to outperform your product. And if you're doing that, you're going to stand out no matter what. So we have always just pushed and pushed on how can we improve on customer success? How can we do better with it? And honestly, it is talking to people like yourself through this podcast that I'm learning so much. In fact, that whole idea of you must outperform service over product came through talking to people on this podcast, that kind of clarity. How do you guys go about customer success? What are some of the things that you think make you unique?
Yeah, I love the question, and I love the concept, and we couldn't agree more. Amplify platform it's the technology. It's the product that we offer. It's the product that we support. But we are always thinking about the experience. We're always thinking about the experience of the investor, the person at the end of the day that we're all trying to serve and help them make sure that they're getting the outcome that they and their advisor have worked to achieve. So we're thinking about the investor experience. We're thinking certainly about the advisor experience. How are they interacting with all of our tools? Are they using them? Do they need more training? Do they need more support? What else can we do to make that better? And then, of course, we're thinking about the experience for the RIA enterprise. How can we make it easier for them when there's an audit? How can we make it easier for them to recruit new advisors? How can we make it easier for them to train? So the experience that a user is having as they're interacting with our platform is something we think a lot about. We do experience reviews. We get all kinds of feedback, across all of those different folks. And that really does help to inform our roadmap, our hiring, our the way that we reward employees, all of those things. And then, Rich, I'll say long before technology became like as important or as significant or as, robust of an offering as it was, I always believed we're in a relationship business. An advisor is in a relationship business with their client. Amplify is in a relationship business with our RIA enterprises. Those enterprises are in a relationship with their advisor. So we always have to be thinking about how we can, connect deeply and deeply and meaningful and make sure people know that they matter to us.
Yeah, and it's a multi-layered problem because as you alliterated, you've got the investor client, you've got the advisor, you've got the firm the advisor works with, and then you've also got integration partners you've got to contend with as well and be nice with them. It kind of made me think about this, like how many companies in different industries have this multi-layer problem of who do they serve? I was just listening to a presentation on food. It's a company that built one of these Chinese sauces. It's Mr. Bing, in fact. And it was fascinating because they started with a food truck, like a little cart, and people loved the food. And then people were like, well, we need the sauce. So they wanted to get the sauce out in little jars. And then the owners of the cafeteria is like, no, we need gallons. So now they're serving different constituencies with different product types and SKUs, of course. And I think about our business from that standpoint because we want to sell to bigger and bigger clients. But if we don't serve the end user really, really well, why would they buy us in the first place? And then they come to us at the enterprise level and say, oh, but we have these administrative needs. I just heard a new request today from a customer I was talking to that I'd never heard before. So how do we make decisions to what features we build. Where do we spend our resources? It is such a complicated problem. And maybe that's why we see so many different solutions out there in the marketplace. I don't know.
Yeah, it may be, and listening to all of those constituents and um, I think listening to all those constituents and helping them inform your roadmap is really important. And as you know from building your company, project prioritization is such a great challenge because whatever you hear from any of your constituents, your end client, your client service associates, any of that feedback, all of that feedback is good and valuable, but you can't do it all. I worked for a fellow that I really admired. He used to say, we can do anything, but not everything. And
Right.
picking the anythings is really challenging when you want to do everything.
Yeah, we're very focused on our roadmap development right now. And the backlog of ideas that we've heard from customers is so long. We just can't do them all. But we're about to release one of those features that's taken us a year and a half that is going to transform what we do. It's coming out, it'll be past the time this episode comes out so people can see it. It's the new multi-package householding feature so that people can generate all the forms for a household together in a single process. But I mean, you go and you hear that feedback and then you run it by people and you iterate and you change. It is so dynamic and so hard to build it right the first time. I'm sure there's going to be revisions coming out of that, and then new requests we've never heard.
Yeah, I'm smiling because the number of requests is endless. Your
Yeah.
ability to act on all of them it's not possible. Um, and the time it takes from idea to execution and delivery is always so much longer than we want. Because you're
Oh my
right,
God.
as you start to build, you're like, but we could do this and we could do this and that. Scope creep is something you have to be super careful about. And so then you start talking about minimum viable products, and you have to make sure the MVP isn't so awful that nobody will want the whole thing when you add it all. And that, finding that right balance is, I think, a challenge for the ages.
Man, I wonder if customers cringe when they hear the minimum viable product. Like, you're just
Uh,
going to give me the minimum? I need the whole thing.
I know, inside of Amplify, and I certainly didn't make up this expression, but I say it a lot, is crawl, walk, run. Like
Yeah.
we have to start somewhere because, and I'm going to do another quote, because perfect can absolutely be the enemy of progress if you
Yeah.
wait and wait and wait and wait. Because I don't know that the Amplify platform, try as we might, will ever be perfect, because there's
No.
going to be something, some feature, some innovation that some other provider has that we want, and we won't be able to get to them. So, but yeah, I think you just have to keep making progress one step at a time, and do your very best to try to make sure that you're prioritizing correctly based on the volume, perhaps, and the significance of the feedback. But it is
You
a
know,
challenge.
this is one of the reasons I do not have a scarcity mindset, because I can't solve 100% of 100% of people's problems. I just will never win 100% of the customers out there. I would love that, but that's just not possible. And what we have is good enough for some people, and what we're going to have is going to be better for some people, et cetera. All right, I want to go back in time. 2 years ago, when I started this podcast, when I started talking about AI, nobody really understood it. Everybody was talking about it, et cetera. But I think we're at a phase now where everybody has it. They're doing something with it. And maybe it's not as special anymore, but I'm still curious. How is artificial intelligence impacting Amplify at any
Uh,
level?
yeah, well, I'm sure everybody at Amplify uses some of the tools, to help us modify an email or get some ideas for a blog post. Or so we're certainly using it, to help with some of our marketing stuff and some of our email communications. And I think it helps refine our messaging. Anybody who's ever tried to write anything knows it's a lot easier to start with something in outline form than to start with an empty page. At Amplify, the all of the AI tools that are out there have us. We're thinking a lot about which ones are the right ones and which ones are noise, and how do we make sure that we are enabling humans
Mhm.
to better act with other humans. Not thinking about AI as a replacement for, but as a supplement to. We're leaning in and looking hard at all the productivity tools, not just how we use the productivity tools ourselves to do our own given jobs, but how we leverage those, into the platform itself. We haven't launched any of the tools in the platform itself, Rich, because we really want to make sure we get it right.
Yeah.
And we're not, we're not sure yet which ones the regulators are going to, frown on. I've heard some stories about some of the note-taking applications that will feed right into your CRM, and the watch out on that is your CRM is books and records the minute it's in there. And and the note-taking tool may not capture every single thing about your meeting accurately, right? So you've got to make sure a human is in the middle, making sure that it's valid before it goes into the note taker. I've heard stories about some of the great tools that are helping with portfolio construction, and advisors are using them to help construct a portfolio. But then when the advisor is asked, why do you own that? They can't answer the question.
They didn't do it. They don't know.
They can't answer the question. So, we're proceeding with caution because we want to make sure that we're proceeding in ways that help advisors make better decisions, not replacing the decisions that they need to be able to make and need to be able to answer for. The one thing we're spending a ton of time on, and everybody needs to spend time on this, is data. And getting all of the data into a place where it can be manageable so that once we decide on all of the right tools that we want to employ, we know we have the data right. Because as you know, if you don't have that right, then the tools really are not very meaningful. I want to say one more thing about AI. I was at an RIA conference. I want to say it was last week, but sometimes time gets blurry. I can't remember. And I've been in this business for 30 plus years. I know this business. I know our industry. I know the language. I don't know all the people anymore because there's a lot of a lot of new folks. But I was walking the hall. I was walking the exhibit hall, and I had to walk it like 3 or 4 times to make sense of all of the stuff that was there. And I think half of the exhibitors are some new AI tool that's designed to help advisors be better, be smarter, go faster, do more, communicate faster. I mean, you think of all the things that we want to do as human beings. There's a tool now that'll help you do it, but trying to make sense of how to manage all of that is, it's just something. And then making sure that we do so in a way that we don't get in trouble. And then I'm going to be quiet after one more thing. I think Michael Kitces is going to need a whole map just for the AI tools to supplement his other map we talked about earlier.
Yeah. No, I feel you with all that. There's a lot in there. To the Kitces map, I feel that the AI is just a tool set. It's an enabler. And to define your world on AI is not, I don't know. I mean, unless you are the best hammer maker, I wouldn't define myself as a hammer. I would look at it in terms of what we can actually accomplish. In fact, we're rethinking it here at Quick. We've been the forms company for forever, but do you know what we're actually doing? And I got to thank a little bit of AI to this, because all my conversations with ChatGPT and my team and thinking through the future of what we're working towards and the big vision has helped us realize that what we're really doing is we're helping the industry standardize the business transactions. We're standardizing how a new account process works because we've standardized the fields of data involved in that process, and we've normalized it so our partners at DocuPace and Skyence and Forms Logic all have the same data model to work with. And the forms work the same way. So eventually we could reach out further and further in the ecosystem and get a company like Fidelity to say, yeah, we can accept the raw data from a DocuPace because it's the data model built around the forms. So really what we're doing is standardizing how you perform your business process. And I think when you abstract from that, it's not about AI anymore. It's not about the tool. It's about what is the benefit you're offering and therefore the leverage that you're giving to your customer. But also to your point, I struggle with how many startups there are around this AI technique or this AI tool set. And then you see a ChatGPT or a Google come out with something brand new. So my wife is editing videos. It's her new professional interest. And she's looking at this and she had a panic attack a couple weeks ago. She's like, AI is going to replace me. I don't even need to study this. I'm like, no, you don't get it though. They're enablers. You are going to be faster because of the tool. How can it fully replace you? Could you imagine a director talking to an AI actor and saying, I need you to act this way and it doing it perfectly, I don't know if it can really intuit the human emotion to act on screen. And that's just kind of a litmus test in my mind of all the different tools that are out there. Man, there's so much in there.
I heard it said, and many have read it, and certainly others. This is not anything new, but I believe it to be true. AI is not going to replace people. People using AI are going to replace people not using AI. And I certainly, I'm certainly a believer in that, in that concept. Sounds like exactly the advice you gave your wife. And then the other thing, that I'm really glad that I get to spend this last chapter, if you will, of my career, being exposed to AI and being a part of this, innovation era. We're in people asked, are on an AI panel, somebody asked somebody who's an AI expert, are we in the early innings? Where are we in the game? And we're not even in the game yet. We're still at spring training. So
I know. And we've seen this before when the dot-com boom started in the 2000s, late 90s. How many companies came and went? How many search engines came and went? There's so many technologies that are going to be folded into other things or become standard issue. So it's hard to make those bets. But I'm going to share one other thing with you. Through the course of talking to people on this show, the one thing that has really made it clear to me is that we all have access to the same AI models, right? You can use Claude, I can use Claude, et cetera. So what makes us different? And really what makes us different is our unique data, what we uniquely have access to or we've built over time. And when I had Patrick Hannon of Fidelity Labs on the show, he talked about Fidelity having 40 years of compliance data. So they took that 40 years and trained a model to do advertising compliance, and it does it better than anything because it has 40 years of data that they uniquely had. That's powerful to me. And so I think when you think about your business and you ask, what data do I uniquely have? That is where you start to differentiate your usage of AI and then the innovation. And Vickie, I'm not going to tell you everything we're working towards, but man, I'm more excited today than I've ever been about my company because AI is enabling us to go further, faster, and better.
It's great. And think different and think differently, perhaps too.
Yeah. All right. I do have to wrap this up. Before I get to my last question, I want to help people connect with you. So what's the best way for people to find and connect with you, Vickie?
Yeah, the best way to find me is on LinkedIn under Vickie Edwards Lewin, and you can connect to amplifyplatform.com right from there as well.
Perfect. Awesome. All right. I get to ask one of my favorite questions now. Who has had the biggest impact on your leadership style and how you approach your role today?
Yeah, I love that question. That question makes me smile, on the inside. I was really fortunate early in my career to get introduced to the founders of AssetMark, Brian O'Toole, Ron Cordes, and Richard Steiny. And those guys walked into our office at a little software company I was working for in Denver, Colorado at the time with this vision of a TAMP, a turnkey asset management platform that they wanted to build that had more than one strategy on the platform. And at the time that they built this in 1998, that was a really innovative idea, and they hired our technology to do that. They were my absolute favorite client, so much so that I begged them to hire me in 2001. And so in 2001, Brian O'Toole became my boss, and I got to work directly for him for about 7 or 8 years. I still hear myself saying things to people that work for me the same way he said it. He was a classic entrepreneur, a thinker. He moved fast. He was kind. But he never settled. He pushed the envelope, and so it would be the founders, but especially Brian, because I got to work directly for him.
Oh, I love these stories, Vickie. To me, they're so inspiring. It's what I can only hope and dream that maybe I have that kind of impact on people I get to work with throughout my career. And I know I've had many people impact me that way too.
Rich, I say the same thing. So I was at AssetMark for 23 years, and I've been at Amplify now just for one. So all my old AssetMark colleagues heard me say often when I left AssetMark and now that I'm at Amplify, I just hope that there are a few people inside of that organization that think that I helped them in some way. I helped them advance their career or do better with a client or whatever it was that, maybe we had a conversation about. It would, one of my most, important things that I think about in my career is having made a difference for the people I got to work with somewhere.
Yeah, no, I love that. Thank you for sharing that. All right. I want to give a big thank you to Vickie Lewin, Chief Growth Officer of Amplify, for being on this episode of the Customer Wins. Go check out Vickie's website at amplifyplatform.com. And don't forget to check out Quick at quickforms.com, where we make processing forms easy. I hope you've enjoyed this discussion. We'll click the like button, share this with someone, and subscribe to our channels for future episodes of the Customer Wins. Vickie, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me. I could talk to you for hours.
Let's do it next time.
Absolutely.
Thanks for listening to the Customer Wins podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.